Driver talking to you about traffic signs, the fundamental component if you want to make your driving better. In other words, defensive driving. It is one of the fundamental skills of defensive driving, which ties into observation and seeing what's going on the roadway and doing a better job of understanding traffic patterns and predicting the actions of other road users. You're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, how we can help you out to pass a driver's test, to become a safer, smarter driver. Definitely, that's what we're here for, helping you out to pass your driver's test and to become a safer, smarter driver. So just let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, how we can help you out, and to make you a safer, smarter driver, which I believe I already said. Elevator fan, say hi to your dad for me. Elevator fan tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. Corey is here, Bricks for Wheels. Corey is the moderator. He does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at for more details. So, traffic signs. Traffic signs have different classifications, and once you understand what the classifications are, then it is easy to glean the information from traffic signs at a glance, because they're designed to be read at speed. 6M, class 5 at 65. Congratulations, that is an awesome achievement, my friend, and you can do that. And I suspect Marion will show up here. If Marion shows up, she can definitely help you out. And she's in Vancouver there as well. She got her license when she was older. So it can definitely be done, my friend. Traffic signs convey information in three ways: the shape of the sign, the colors and text thereon, and the colors of the the three ways that traffic signs convey information are the shape of the sign, the colors, and the text or symbols thereon. So that's what we're talking about. Retired, my friend, how are you? Marion, no, you're not late at all. There is Marion tuning in from Vancouver. And how is the weather in Vancouver? It is absolutely crazy, the winter that we have had here in British Columbia this year. It is the end of February, the last week of February, and it's sunny and plus 5 degrees Celsius, which is what, 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And I put the plants outside today, and those people on the West Coast, not the West Coast, those people on the East Coast in New York City and Boston are getting absolutely hammered by a winter storm, a nor'easter as they call it. So yes, Marion, you did hear your name. 6M there is 65 and getting their license for the first time there in Vancouver as well. So I mentioned your name and saying that you got your license when you were older, and you may be able to offer some help and advice about how to get your license. Retired, I bought a new set of Michelin Cross Climate tires. Love them. That is awesome. So glad that I could help out with that. Retired, in terms of getting your Michelin tires. I really wish that I could get some more Michelins for the buggy, but my choices for new tires this year, because I have to buy new all-season tires, not summer tires. There's no such thing as summer tires, all-season tires. And I am down to the choice of Nokian, which I believe is a brand specific to Cal Tire, or Goodyear tires. And I think I'm leaning towards the Nokians. They just get a much better rating online. So this is the other thing about buying tires or buying other things for your vehicle. Make sure that you have a look online, look at the reviews, look at what other people, other customers have thought about that item, and then make your own decision, because you got to make your own decisions. Definitely get the recommendations from other people, as Retired did in terms of buying Michelins. But like I said, the size for the buggy is not, the Michelin doesn't make those anymore, so I can't buy them. Corey, above freezing weather, I'm jealous. For those of you who are new to the live stream here at Smart Drive Test, Corey lives in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which for those of us in Canada, we like to affectionately call it Winterpeg. And what is the temperature there in Winnipeg, Corey? Studios, do you have any videos, recommendations for memorizing right-of-way rules, especially related to intersections? Thank you. Yes. Studios. Corey put up the video for you on right-of-way, and that will definitely help you with intersections. Elevator fan, as the temperatures warm up, we will be entering construction season. Yes, it's winter or construction, as we like to affectionately say in the traffic safety industry. Marion, of course, go for it. You'll be fine. Practice lots and lots, and then some more. Try and get a driving school to help you out. Yes, exactly. Corey says that it is minus 16 in Winnipeg, minus 16 degrees Celsius, which is about 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and it feels like minus 23, which is about minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very chilly in Winnipeg. Excellent. Awesome. So we were able to, and Marion says in Vancouver, it's a beautiful sunny day today. It's 10 degrees and feels like 13. Yes, 6 degrees Celsius here, which is 45, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. It's crazy on the West Coast. The ski hills have had a terrible season. Absolutely terrible here because it's been so warm. And we got one day of snow about a week ago, and then we had one snow before that. So we have had absolutely no winter here on the West Coast at all, whereas the Midwest and the East Coast of the United States and Canada have been absolutely inundated with snow and cold temperatures this winter. My mom said that it was about as close to an old-fashioned winter as you could have ever imagined where she lives. Paul, my friend, the real signs of drivers, the intersections to know exactly which lane you're supposed to be in, whether left or right turn or straight through and paying full attention. Yes, lane designation signs, and we'll talk about those in terms of the classifications for driving and driving signs, traffic signs. As I said, it's, unfortunately, it's one of those things that most drivers filter out when they're driving. They don't look at the traffic signs. They don't read the traffic signs. They simply follow other traffic. They look down the road, they see what the traffic's doing, and they adjust their driving and respond according to what the traffic is doing down the road. They don't look at traffic signs and go, wait a minute, okay, that traffic sign, there's an intersection ahead, there's potentially pedestrians, and I need to scan and map the intersection and track other road users that potentially could cross my path of travel. If you're looking for and identifying intersection signs, then you can respond because you have a preconceived notion, not a preconceived notion because that sounds wrong, but you can understand and predict the possible scenarios that you're going to encounter at that intersection because of the type of intersection that you're coming to. You're coming to a Y intersection, you're coming to a roundabout, you're coming to a cross intersection, a conventional cross intersection. So those are going to determine different kinds of patterns. As well, as a smart driver, that this is the place where you're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users, and more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections. So you're going to map and track the road users at the intersection, and you're going to respond accordingly to what's going on as you're approaching that intersection, and maintaining space, because space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes. This is what we're doing when we're reading traffic signs. And if you graduate to pulling a trailer, driving a pickup truck, renting a U-Haul trailer, or upgrading your license to a commercial vehicle license, driving a bus, driving a semi-truck or a garbage truck or recycle truck, whatever it is, as you get more and more advanced in terms of the vehicles that you're operating on the roadway, traffic signs become even more important, especially for commercial drivers, CDL drivers, because you're driving a bigger vehicle and there are more signs on the roadway that apply to you. For example, height signs. If you're driving a car, you never ever worry about a height sign. However, if you're driving a big vehicle, you're towing a trailer, these height signs become incredibly important. Grade signs on hills, if you're driving in the mountains on the West Coast here and those types of things, these signs become critical for safe driving and being a smarter, safer driver on the roadways. 5742 from Connecticut, doing my test on the 17th next month in Farmington. That is awesome, my friend. How is the training going, the practicing with you getting ready for your license? Have you taken any driving or training with an instructor or whatnot in preparation for that? So yes, we're talking about traffic signs. And in keeping with preparing for your driver's test, I come back to the advice that you need to practice in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test, because you need to know and understand what traffic signs are there and understand any nuances. And Corey will put up the video for you with Sam, Big Mac Sam there in the Bronx. We did a driving test, and there were a couple of nuances, details that he pointed out during the driving test that were a little bit odd. One of them I remember was the stop line for the intersection was like half a block back from the intersection, and you could make a right turn at the intersection, as some of you know, as some of the smart drivers here know. Others do not. In the New York City, in the 5 boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island, you cannot make a right on a red light. It's the same as Europe. You cannot make a right on a red light. So the two things, first, the stop line was like half a block back from the intersection, which was completely weird. And the second thing is there was a sign saying that you could in fact make a right on a red light if you were planning to turn right at that intersection. So know that, and you need to learn those different kind of nuances in and around the test center, and the traffic signs will help you with those details to ensure that you pass your driver's test. And as I've counseled you before, if you're not taking driving lessons with an instructor, as some of you aren't, I do encourage you to book at least one lesson with a driving instructor and go out. They will take you on the test route. They will take you to the location where the driving examiners get students to do the slow speed maneuvers. You can go in after hours or on the weekend and practice backing into the parking spaces at the test center. And some of these test centers, so for example, if you're in Ohio, they'll leave the Ohio maneuverability test set up for you, and you can go in and use the cones, or you can go in to the place where they do the parallel parking, but don't go in during business hours. Go in after hours or on the weekend to practice doing your test. The last thing about taking a lesson with a driving instructor is he or she will give you feedback on the skills and abilities that you need to strengthen or practice to be fully ready and prepared for taking your driver's test, because we all have some weaknesses and things that we need to practice and reinforce before we actually show up for test day. When I did my driving instructor's course in Australia, I'd already been a driving instructor. I'd already driven truck and buses and all kinds of things. I got dinged for not shoulder checking on a lane merge. I was in a bad mood. And, I was doing the test with some kid that was 10 years younger than me. And I was like, oh man, I got 100 times more experience than you do. And, he just dinged me on it. But, I was in a bad mood. So it depends on your mood as well. So make sure that you get in the right mood when you're taking your test and focus on what you need to do to be fully prepared for your license test. Marion, I wish they would do that here too. It bothers me sometimes that you were able to turn right on a red. Curious, Marion, why is it that you're bothered by being able to turn right on a red? I mean, as long as you come to a complete stop, scan the intersection, give way to other people, I don't see why there's a problem with it. But I do understand that, and it comes down to the fundamental conflict of traffic, right? How fast can we drive, for example, which translates to how much traffic flow, how much volume of traffic can we get through the intersection in an hour, versus safety. It's always traffic flow versus safety, right? We got this much safety, we can't turn right at a red light, or we can turn right at a red light and we increase traffic flow. So it's one or the other that we're dealing with at intersections. So yes, and there are certainly places and jurisdictions, Marion, that agree with you. The island of Manhattan, the island of Montreal rather, you can't turn right on a red light on the island of Montreal, and you can't turn right on a red in New York City in the 5 boroughs, and you can't turn right on a red if you go to Europe. they don't allow it. So there are places that believe that safety is more important than traffic flow for a right on a red traffic light. Paul, for yellow signs is where drivers have to take extreme caution. Paul, not extreme caution. It depends on the sign and what information it is conveying as to whether it is extreme caution or not. Most of the time it is cautionary. For example, coming off a freeway and interstate, there are cautionary speed signs, and sometimes those speed signs don't apply to cars at all. You can probably, you know, most of the time you can travel faster than what the speed says on the sign. For commercial vehicles, however, as you said and you pointed out, yes, then it is critical for tractor trailer drivers, bus drivers. Roblox, I like Ford Fusion Hybrid. Excellent, that's great. My first time driving, getting ready for my DMV test, 5742. Where are you going to be taking your test, my friend? We can definitely help you out with that. So you're in the right place in terms of asking questions about passing your driver's test, getting ready for that, reading traffic signs. And next week, I just want to point out, next week we're going to talk about why there are so many traffic fatalities in the United States of America. A smart driver asked me that question last week. I apologize, I don't remember who it was who asked me that question, but I thought that it would make an excellent live stream to look at why the United States of America has a higher traffic fatality rate per capita, the number of crashes per the population in the United States, and as well per 100 million miles driven is also the other statistic that they use in terms of number of traffic fatalities. And the United States ranks very poorly in terms of high income countries in the world. And I still haven't figured out what the PC term is for ranking different countries in the world. We don't call them first world countries and third world countries anymore. I think it's high income countries is what they're now, the PC term is. Paul, I mean like wildlife, hidden intersections, yeah, wildlife, again, Paul, that is not something that happens all the time. And the animals are not going to be standing at the sign where you have a deer crossing sign. So, you know, sometimes they're relevant and sometimes they're not. Intersection signs, on the other hand, Paul, yes, they're important to traffic safety. But most drivers do not pay attention to those cautionary signs. Most of them don't even pay attention to most of the regulatory signs. And I was thinking about that today, Paul, as I was driving up the road to take the dog for a walk. Somebody didn't even slow down, didn't even attempt to stop as they rolled through the intersection at the stop sign. So, you know, most people don't even come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections, which is one of the things that you have to do in order to be successful on passing a driver's test. You have to come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. Excellent. Next Street Driving School. Where is that in the world? Is that somewhere in the States, my friend? Marion, also if you pause for pedestrians to cross, you get honked at because I am not moving forward enough for them. Marion, you just take a breath and let them go and have their crash somewhere else. I know that honking it upsets you, but you know, you got two choices. You can run over the pedestrian for the person honking at you and get out of their way, or, you know, just let the person behind you go and have a crash somewhere else. But you're driving in Vancouver. I mean, that is a different experience, you know, because people are in a hurry, right? That's the fundamental component of social driving is me first, hurry up and get out of my way because you are in my way and I need to get to where I'm going as quickly as humanly possible. And it's not me that needs to change. It's the other person that needs to change because I am a good driver. I am a good driver. That's what those participating in social driving believe. I am a good driver. It's not me that needs to change. It's that person over there. Corey, in my experience, I find they often get it right with the traffic signs when right on red isn't allowed, appropriate when it is. All right, excellent. So that's Corey's experience that most people get it right. Marion says that it's wild here sometimes in Vancouver, and yes, it is. In any of those big cities, it can get crazy at times. Taffy, good evening from New York City. I already have my Class D license here for 3 years. Awesome. That is great, my friend. If you have any questions, leave us a comment here. We'll definitely help you out. to be a safer, smarter driver. That's our goal. Elevator fan, contrary to regular signs, is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Yes, if you speed on a driver's test, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. I'm not saying that you speed for like a few moments, but if you speed consistently and keep up with traffic flow for the duration of your driver's test, you are not going to be successful. And if you make a turn against a sign that says turning left at an intersection, for example, is prohibited, and you make a left-hand turn, not that the driving examiner is ever going to trick you in that way, then that would be an automatic fail on a driver's test. You're absolutely right. Sky, I got dinged for not scanning intersections enough. I'm sure I did, and shoulder checking too much. Okay. Yeah, a couple of times for each turn, each change of direction is best for shoulder checking. And Corey will put up the video for you on shoulder checking. Definitely have a look at that. Skinner, question for you. I booked my Class 5 on May 25th this year, and I'm taking it in Alex, Alberta. Any tips? Yes, we can definitely help you out with that. Skinner, run back through the video here, or look at it on the live when I put it up on the weekend here. You want to practice in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test, and I'll give you some more tips after the presentation. Hang in here, and we'll definitely give you some tips and strategies to be successful on passing your driver's test. 73, need to have another gift YT video in the future. I really like the 309 spray and the windshield wipers, but I can't find the dash cam you recommended. Okay, Duke, lots of dash cams out there. Just look at the recommendations on Amazon and see what other people are buying and what other people are recommending. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a dash cam. I have a Garmin. I know it's probably 5 years old now, but it was probably $300 at the time that I bought it. You can get really good quality dash cams now for $60, $100. So they're really inexpensive. So definitely look on Amazon and have a look at those. Taffy, is it permissible to make a U-turn in one-way streets? I wouldn't make a U-turn. I don't recommend U-turns. I think they're dangerous. My professional opinion is that they are dangerous, and I do not advocate U-turns. So I wouldn't recommend you do a U-turn. I definitely wouldn't recommend you doing a U-turn on a driver's test. The only place that you could potentially do kind of a U-turn is in a cul-de-sac, but I wouldn't do that, and definitely not on a one-way street, because then you're going against traffic. So you cannot make a U-turn on a one-way street. All right, Corey's put up the video on shoulder checking there. Let's get over the presentation here. We'll get through that. It's 10 or 12 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll spend the remainder of the hour answering any questions you have about passing a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or upgrading your license to a commercial license. We can definitely help you with that as well. So, traffic signs, classifications of driving, traffic signs. Traffic signs convey information in three ways: the shape of the sign, the colors, and the text or symbols thereon. And the classifications: regulatory signs, cautionary signs, lane designation signs, school signs. These are the biggest classifications of traffic signs, and school signs are probably the least consistent of all the signs. Most of the signs are fairly consistent, but these are not. There are some minor differences between the United States and Canada, but not a great deal of difference in terms of traffic signs. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I held freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997, and 2015, 10 years ago now, more than 10 years ago now, crazy to think, I moved all this online, and I've been teaching driver education, traffic safety, how to pass a driver's test online. 2006, again, 20 years ago, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history, which is study policing, courts, and prisons. So no, I don't have a PhD in driving. I have a PhD in legal history. And oddly enough, my expertise in academia is policing and law as it relates to traffic. So how it changed with the motor car and how it continues to change, which is really interesting. I was looking at move-over laws today, and that they came into effect about 20 years ago, and how dangerous it is to sit on the side of highways and interstates. And ever since I started teaching defensive driving, I always told people, don't pull over on the side of the highway. Don't pull over on the side of the interstate and sit there unless it is an absolute, capital letters, bold, italics, underline, in quotes, emergency. If you have a flat tire, that is not an absolute emergency. Limp it up to the next exit, get off the interstate, change your tire there, then continue on with your journey. But sitting on the side of an interstate, sitting on the side of a highway or an interstate is a very, very dangerous place to be. While I was going to university, I drove buses for Greyhound, one of the regional bus lines there as well. So I have experience in buses, coaches, new drivers, the whole gamut of people. The only experience that I don't have is motorcycles, because the one time I had an opportunity to teach motorcycles, I said to my boss that I didn't want to work in the summertime, at night, and on weekends. The hours are terrible, and in the summertime, I want to be sitting on a beach. I want to be sitting on a beach having a mojito, not teaching people how to drive motorcycles. Good stuff to have a look at. Why get a dash cam? Know that a dash cam is not going to solve all your problems, and it may be used against you if you are sued, especially for those of you there in the States. Master shoulder checking, and Corey's put that video up already on mastering shoulder checking, and the number one mistake on a driver's test is not shoulder checking. So be sure you know how to do that. And don't say, oh, I have a backup camera and proximity sensors and blind spot detectors and convex mirrors. I don't need to shoulder check. Those are just backups to good driving skills. So shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. How traffic signs convey information, as I've mentioned, the shape of the sign, the colors. So construction signs are always going to be orange background with black lettering and symbols thereon, and then the words or symbols. This is how traffic signs convey information. Road sign classifications, regulatory signs. The root word of regulatory is regulation, which means it is the law. And railway crossing signs, as my good friend Tim, who is a retired police officer, informed me, are not regulatory signs in Canada. However, railway crossing signs are regulatory signs in the United States. School signs, there are signs that are under the classification of school signs. However, these are the least consistent of the traffic signs. Cautionary signs, lane control signs, and object marker signs are a subcategory of cautionary signs. But I always point this out in terms of signs on the roadway. These are the most prolific signs. In other words, the most number of signs. If you took one sign and you said which one is the most prevalent on our roadways, it would be object marker signs. But most people don't know what they mean, and most people don't even remember seeing them. Okay, but they tell you where objects are that you could potentially run into on the roadway and which side to pass on, whether you pass right or left, pass to the right, or pass to the left. So take note of hazard marker signs, object marker signs rather. Okay, pass to the left, pass to the right, and they're important for larger vehicles. If you're driving a pickup truck, you're pulling a trailer, taking the boat to the beach on the weekend, and taking me out for a ride and giving me a mojito, then, that's what you need to do. You need to pay attention to the object marker signs. And if you graduate to a commercial license with a bus or a semi-truck or those types of things, these become even more critical, as Paul was saying earlier about cautionary signs. Okay, regulatory signs, stop signs, speed signs, railway crossing signs, and road check brake signs. These are important for commercial vehicles. As I said, the higher the class of license that you get, there are more road signs that become relevant to you. And brake check signs, height signs, grade signs, these are all relevant to commercial drivers who are on these roadways, and know that if you don't stop at a brake check sign with a big truck, the diesel bears, as they're affectionately called in the industry, are going to come after you and give you a ticket for not stopping at the brake check sign. Cautionary signs, the one at the top, 11 feet 8 inches, that is a height sign, and it's usually on these bridges that really like to make convertibles out of large commercial vehicles. And there are many, many videos here on social media where trucks are running into bridges, and I find it interesting because there's one of the truck drivers, former truck drivers that I follow on social media. And the other day, he posted a statistic by the American Trucking Association in 2013 saying that 8 out of 10 fatal crashes with trucks and cars, the car is at fault. So 8 out of 10 times, the truck driver is absolved of guilt in terms of crashes. And I wrote back and I said, that is not right, my friend. That number is not right at all. Truck drivers are at fault in way more number of crashes. And then, of course, the next day he posts another video showing trucks hitting bridges. And then the other day he showed a video of some driver doing something completely goofy, and they're like scraping the concrete barrier on a freeway. And I wrote and I said, do you still think it's 8 out of 10 for truck drivers that are responsible for crashes? I said, I don't think so. So, okay, cautionary signs, some are relevant, some are not. So take note of these. Put the information in your head and say to yourself, okay, is it relevant to my driving or is it not relevant to my driving? Because sometimes it will be and sometimes it won't be. So if you start pulling a camper trailer and there are height signs, you may need to take note of those signs while you're driving along the roadway. Larger vehicles, as I've pointed out, destination signs, overhead signs, construction signs, and match the flow of traffic. For those of you who have your driver's license, I encourage you to drive with the flow of traffic as opposed to driving the posted speed limit. And sometimes the flow of traffic is going to be less than the posted speed limit because of congestion, road works, those types of things. So you need to manage space in front of your vehicle. The number one defensive driving tool in your toolbox is space management. Always having that 3 to 4 second following distance in front of your vehicle. If you can do that, you are going to be significantly safer on the roadways and reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Lane usage signs. These are overhead the roadway and they will work in concert with road markings. So have a look at these and be in the correct lane. And the lawyer that I'm working with right now called me the other day, was talking about a left-hand turn with a semi-truck. And I think there was something that was mislabeled at the intersection because the two left lanes could both go straight through or turn left. And the truck driver was in the middle lane turning left, and the car in the inside left lane went straight through and of course ran into the tractor trailer as the tractor trailer driver was turning left, which I found a little bit weird because if you're turning left in a tractor trailer, you should be mapping and tracking the cars along the side of your unit, and you should be sticking your head out the window going, hey, there's a car there, I can't turn until that person decides what they're going to do, instead of having them run into you. So know that if you graduate to a larger vehicle, or if you start pulling a trailer with a pickup truck as well, the same thing is going to happen when you're making left-hand turns. That other vehicles are going to, come up on the inside of you and potentially cause a crash. So lane usage signs, pay attention to those, plan accordingly, because your GPS, if you don't know where you're going or you haven't been there before, your GPS is going to give you lots of warning, right? 10 kilometers, you're going to turn right. You're 10 kilometers, you're going to take exit 374. And be in the correct lane according to your GPS. And the other defensive driving strategy that I can give you is turn on the audio on your GPS so you don't have to be looking at the screen. You can be listening to what it's telling you and moving your vehicle appropriately and responding to changing traffic conditions that you find yourself in on that section of roadway. Mile marker signs. These are the ticket right here. This is the sign that you need to know. And these are an excellent defensive driving tool that you can put in your toolbox for when you're driving on state roads, when you're driving in interstates, and you're driving on freeways. There are mile markers. And in most places, the exit numbers line up with the mile markers. So therefore, if you're going to get off at exit 380 and you're at exit 375 and the numbers are going up, you're going the right way, first and foremost. And second of all, that in 5 miles, you're going to get off the interstate and you're going to exit at exit number 380. So once you get to mile marker 378, you know that you got to start getting over to the right side so that you can get off the interstate and you can exit. So in that way, it's a defensive driving tool that you can use to be better prepared and respond and be prepared and anticipate what's going on the roadways. These will keep you safe on the freeways. Now, know if you're in New York State, the exit numbers do not line up with the mile markers. But there's still mile markers, there's still exit numbers, but the exit numbers are not the same as the mile markers. So know that if you're driving in New York State, and maybe a couple other places. I think the New Jersey Turnpike is like that as well. Somebody can correct me either here on the live stream or leave a comment down in the comment section if you're watching on the replay about mile markers. But incredibly useful tool. And as well, if you're traveling with the family and you got kids in the back, they're a little bit older and they could do some math. You can say, we're at exit 340, we're going to exit 400. So you got 60 miles up the road, we're doing 60 miles an hour. How long is it going to take us to get there? How much longer do we have to be in the car? So there's that little task as well. So good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Elevator fan, some signs have their own unique shape. Elevator fan, which signs have their own unique shape? Because regulatory signs for the most part are rectangle, except for railway crossing signs, which are the crossbuck. Cautionary signs tend to be diamond in shape. School signs are pentagon in shape. Overhead lane designation signs tend to be rectangular in shape. So I don't know which ones outside of those shapes. Stop signs are octagon, 8-sided. Some of the old railway crossing signs in the United States were round. I can't think of any traffic signs now that are round. If anybody knows any signs. And I know that in Europe, and Evan's not here right now, but as soon as Evan is here, he'll be able to tell you the two classifications between Europe and what goes on in the United States in terms of traffic signs. But outside those shapes, I don't know any different shapes in terms of unique shapes for signs. Wheels 1, a couple of weeks ago when driving on a 3-lane road after dark, wanted to change lanes, so I checked my mirror, convex mirror, checked my blind spot, see nothing, blind spot detector was lit. So I focused on the mirror again, and I see an F-150 black part driving right next to me. That was scary. I would have changed lanes if I didn't pay attention and sideswipe. See, wheels 1, you paid attention, you did all the checks you had, and your blind spot detector is still on, and you're like, what's going on here? Yeah, so you always make that last check before you go into the other lane because, like you said, it's just a backup to good driving skills. So you did well, my friend. Railway crossing signs are shaped like a circle. Elevator fan, are they shaped like a circle there in Indiana? Because most places it's the crossbuck, right? It's that X shape for railway crossing signs. But as I said, there are some older railway crossing signs that are circles for the most part. 73, I have had the same thing happen to me quite a few times in my company vehicle. It's really concerning when there is nothing. Yeah, and you can't see, and you got the blind spot detectors on your vehicle. I think they're really great. I wouldn't rely on them, but they're really great in terms of a backup for shoulder checking and lane changing. And when I was driving in Australia, and it wasn't just me, I was talking to Carrie about this as well, one of the older experienced drivers, bus drivers, coming out of Sydney, Australia, and there's a huge tunnel underneath the suburbs that you got to drive through when you come out of downtown at the airport. You go up to the airport and then you take the get on the freeway, and huge tunnel. And both of us, different times this happened to us. You're on the left side, right? So you're making a lane change. You're out in the left lane. You're trying to get over to the right to drive in the slow lane in the bus because the bus only does 100 kilometers an hour. And you do all your checks, you look in the mirrors, you look forward, you look in the mirrors again, there's nobody there, and then you shoulder check and look out the door, the glass doors, and all of a sudden there's somebody there, and you're like, oh my God, because you've already started moving the bus over. But that's the other thing about lane changes and defensive lane changes is that you move slowly, especially in a larger vehicle. And defensive driving lane changes is you put your signal on, do all your checks, look forward, and then you check again, and you move the vehicle to the center line. But just before crossing over the center line, you pause for like half a second, and then you look again, because if there's a vehicle there and they're not paying attention to your lights, your little blinky thing that you're coming over, your vehicle moving towards the center line is going to warn them. Because keep in mind that the number one ways that we communicate with other traffic is the position and speed of our vehicle. The position and speed. So if your vehicle is moving sideways, the position is indicating to the other traffic, hey, I'm coming over. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, they got their flasher on, they're coming over, right? So both Carrie and I had the same experience where we look out the window, there's a vehicle right there. We're like, oh my God. And you abort the lane change to keep yourself safe. Skinner, I live in Calgary, but I'm taking my class 5 in Alex using my parents' vehicle. It's a small town. Okay, excellent. So yes, so Skinner, definitely go to the small town before you take your driver's test and drive in and around the small town, because it's a one-horse town, but I can guarantee you that there will be some weird thing on the test that you won't know unless you go there and actually drive around the town and look at the traffic signs and whatnot. And I would also encourage you to take one driving lesson with a driving instructor at that test center, and go in after hours or on the weekends and practice backing into the parking spaces at the test center, so you're familiar with that. Marion asked Vancouverites what that blinky thing is on their vehicle mean when it's on. Marion, I'm not disagreeing with you that people put their signals on and other people ignore them. I'm not disagreeing with that. However, in my experience of teaching people to drive truck, I would say to them, okay, we're going to turn left 2 intersections up, 2 traffic lights up. We're going to turn left. So they would get past the first traffic light, and then I would see them, and they'd be looking in the mirror, and they'd be looking in the mirror, and they'd be looking in the mirror. And I'd say to them, what are you doing? Well, you told me to turn left. I got to change lanes. And I would say to them, did you try turning your signal on? Yeah, but I'm not moving. Why would I turn my signal on? And of course I would laugh, and they're like, yeah, but nobody, they said, nobody let me in. Nobody let me over. And I'd be like, turn your signal on. And then they turn their signal on, and it would be like the parting of the Red Sea. Whoever that was. Who was that guy that did the parting of the sea? It was kind of like that with traffic. And then, of course, I would always chuckle and laugh, because I would say to them, because these are experienced drivers, right? They have a driver's license. They've been driving for quite a number of years. And I would always laugh, and I go, it's like magic. It's magic, magic, magic. I don't know the rest of the song. That's the only words I know of the song. But it's like magic when you turn your signal on. Most people will actually move out of your way. And, I've had smart drivers come back to me over the years and say to me, well, when I put my signal on, then people speed up and intentionally block me. And I think what they're actually saying, they're misinterpreting what other people are doing. People aren't intentionally blocking you. They're speeding up to get out of your way because you put your signal on. They're like, oh my God, we're all going to die because that person's got their turn signal on. And I'm right here. And they don't see me. That's what I think they're thinking. That's what I think you think, I think, we think, that they think, that I'm thinking, that I think. So this is what happens when people are driving. And then the person that has their signal on misinterprets that is the other driver is speeding up and intentionally trying to block them. And they're not. They're really not. They're just speeding up to get out of the way. And so, because I've seen it. I've been in congestion. There was a crazy thing that used to get onto the highway, the Trans-Canada Highway in Victoria. I can't remember where the intersection was, but before they fixed it and they put in this enormous interchange, the traffic used to back up for 10 blocks, and then you had to get off and you had to merge into this bumper-to-bumper traffic. And you just put your signal on, and, the first person wouldn't let you in, the second person, the third person, but the fifth person, by the time, you had your blinky thing on and that you were crowding that left side of the lane and you were just like crowding them, eventually somebody created a space and left you in because they knew that eventually you were going to drive into them. So they will move. Marion, so much fun for driving in Vancouver. Yes. Yes, it's fun. And it's not just Vancouver, Marion. Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, London, England, Paris, France, Germany, the United States. Pick your city in the United States. Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. They're all the same. They're all the same. And people will tell you that, here where I live, blah, blah, blah. It's the same everywhere. It's the same. All over the world. Driving is driving. Wheels, it's mostly because there's too many cars and too little road, and people change lanes to avoid left turners who stall the entire traffic behind them just to take an unprotected left turn. Yep, that's another reason to go and take your driving test. Now, here's the other thing that I just reminded me that you're taking your test in a small town, is that if you take your test and you might want to reconsider this, if you're taking your test, you said you live in Calgary, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're going to go take your test in a small town in Alex. You take your test in Calgary, the test is 8 to 12 minutes at most for the driving part. You take your test in a little hick town in Alex, where your parents live, the test is probably going to be 45 minutes of driving because they don't have very many driving tests in the little town. So therefore, they got lots of time. And they're going to test you, and they're going to take you out, and they're going to drive you around for 45 minutes, and they're going to get you to do all the little tests, all the little parking maneuvers, your 3-point turn, your parallel parking, your 2-point reverse turn, and then they're going to get you to back into the parking space because, they got 4 driving tests. Whereas the people in Calgary, they have 10 or 12, maybe 15 driving tests in one day. So know that your test is probably going to be longer. Put up the videos with Charlie, and Charlie is a perfect example of this. I helped Charlie get his license. We did some driving lessons here a few years ago. He didn't do it here in Vernon. He went up to a place called Salmon Arm here in where we live here in the interior, and which Salmon Arm, we affectionately call it Smelling Arm. We have some weird places around here. We have another place called Sickamoose, which we affectionately refer to as Silly Moose. And Kamloops is Fruit Loops. So we went to Salmon Arm, and just what I just said about a small town, his test was over 40 minutes by the time he went out and came back. Whereas had he done it here in Kelowna, had he done it, in a bigger facility as you doing it in Calgary, it would have been 8 to 12 minutes because they have so many tests. They just need to get you out and get you back and get the test done with. So be prepared for that when you go for the small town, that your test is going to be longer. 7X, what's the difference between a rebuilt title and a clean title, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of both? Okay, 7X, a rebuilt title on a used vehicle means that the body shop got a hold of it, so it got banged on the back end. So they got a hold of it, they realigned the body, they put in a new axle, and they fixed the body damage to it, and then it is called a rebuilt title, and that has to be put on the ownership when they sell it. A clean title means that it hasn't had any crashes, nothing major has been done that's been repaired on the vehicle. So that's the difference between a rebuilt. The thing about rebuilts, some of them, so say it's been bashed on the back end and somebody got a hold of it and they put a new fender on it. You can pick up a pretty inexpensive vehicle that's been rebuilt as opposed to a clean title. So that is the advantages of that. You just have to know what you're looking for and know what kind of damage was done to the vehicle and how extensive the repairs were done to that vehicle. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both. Marion, it took a good 30 minutes for my test in Burnaby, and he made me go through every stop street he could to find the route. That's curious, Marion, because, okay, Marion, just to clarify, what time of year did you take your driver's test? Because the season will affect how long the driver's test is as well. Fruit Loops, I haven't heard that one before. No, you haven't heard that one about Kamloops, that it's called Fruit Loops? It's the, what is it called? The tournament champion of the world or something, or Canada or something. I don't know. Tournament headquarters, I think that's what it's called. Wheels, after being fixed, it has to pass inspection to be put on the road again as a rebuilt. Yes, wheels, you are correct about that. It has to pass inspection. However, people who are buying vehicles are reluctant to buy rebuilds unless they know the person personally who did the rebuilding on the vehicle. So just because somebody did an inspection on a vehicle, still be cautious and make sure you do your due diligence before buying the vehicle for sure. Wheels, that's a big topic for chat, but I guess Rick can address it. Google might also help. Yes, that's basically what I'm going to tell you about it. But again, 7X definitely, as Wheels said there, do your research, Google it. It is a big topic, and it's probably something that we could spend a whole live stream on talking about in terms of rebuilds and clean titles for vehicles and helping you buy them. Okay. Epic, in some driving manuals, state or province, they will show you a lane control sign. Red X means do not enter the same line. A green arrow electronic sign means permitted to drive accompanied. Yes, and bridges will sometimes have those. Epic tunnels as well will have those. The reason they change the lanes, so what Epic is talking about is over top of the lane, there will be a sign. It's more like a traffic light, and it will either be an X or it will have a green arrow that you can drive in that lane, in that direction. And they use it to facilitate traffic flow. So bridges and tunnels, for example, during rush hour in the morning when traffic is going one direction, either into town or out of town, they will designate more lanes to go into the city. And then in the afternoon, they will designate more lanes to go out of the city so they can facilitate traffic flow. That is what Epic is talking about in terms of those lanes and the lanes that you're allowed to be in terms of designation. It's a little bit weird if you're driving there and you haven't been there before and you go out in the morning and there's certain lanes that you can drive in and then you go out in the afternoon again and there's certain other lanes that you can drive in. So know that and pay attention to the overhead markings about which lanes that you can go into. Okay? And if you want to be totally terrified, live the Bruce Willis Die Hard series, Live Hard or Die Hard or something. I think it's the third one. It's the one with Justin Long in it, where they change all the signs. They're coming into the tunnel and the terrorists change the sign so all the traffic starts coming the other way. Yeah, so, have a look at that. That'll explain what we're talking about. Wheels, Lionsgate Bridge in Vancouver and George Massey Tunnel in Richmond. I have that as well. Okay, there you go. So there, bridges and tunnels. Wheels, super weird because in rush hour you may end up driving right next to oncoming traffic. Yes, and it's a little bit weird. Before they fixed the bridge in Kelowna from West Bank, it was the same thing. They had those lane designation signs, lights overhead. Skinner, I'm really only going out because I have a vehicle I can use rather than $90 to rent a car plus the text. Plus, I'll keep what you said in mind. Yes, and as I said, Skinner, your best. I know you're trying to save money. I know it's expensive, but if you can book an hour with a driving instructor before you go for your test, that is always the best return on investment because, as I said, they will take you out on the test route. They'll show you where the driving examiners do the slow speed maneuvers, and they will give you feedback on your readiness for the test. And they'll tell you which skills and abilities you need to shore up or practice to be better ready for the test. And they'll point out the little details, the things that you may not know or be able to recognize, and say, oh, watch out for this, don't do that. School lets out at such and such a time, and this is considered a speed zone. One of the places where we used to teach truck driving in Victoria, there was a school speed zone sign there. You come around the corner, there was a school speed zone sign. There was no school in sight. You didn't see the school. There was no other than the sign. You were like, where's the school? The school was on the other block, the other side of the block. But we had to point it out to students, and unfortunately, we had a couple of students who failed because they missed the sign, even though we had pointed out to them on training. It's like, there's the sign. You need to do 30 kilometers an hour. You need to do 20 miles an hour. So those are the kinds of little details that I'm talking about from a driving instructor that will ensure that you're successful in passing your driver's test. 7X, always do a mock test before the actual test. It's worth it, believe me. Yes, exactly. I cannot concur more. That is absolute. 7X, okay. Wheels, I wonder sometimes why is it that changing lanes is not allowed in certain tunnels. For example, George Massey Tunnel that connects Richmond and Delta in the lower mainland. Changing lanes is not allowed. Wheels, I hate to speak ill of traffic, okay? I think that what I'm trying to say, it's kind of like that line from Men in Black where Will Smith's character's like, well, you know, we can tell people they're smart. And, what's his name? I can see his face. He responds to him and he says, you know, a person is smart. People are dumb, stupid, and panicky. And I tend to agree with that in terms of traffic. A driver is smart. Drivers, plural, are dumb, stupid, and panicky. And this is why they don't allow lane changes in the tunnel. There you go. Marion, traffic counter flow. That's what they use here in George Massey Tunnel for rush hour and Lionsgate Bridge, except when someone messes it up. It became the George Massey Tunnel. Couldn't have said it better myself, Marion. That is absolutely true, my friend. Yes, so that's my new saying. A driver is smart. Drivers are dumb, stupid, and panicky. Epic. In some cases, there are tunnels in the United States that allow you to lane change. There would be signs that allow you to do so. Other causes not allowed before the tunnel. Do not pass on the George Washington Bridge. Yes, and they do this for issues of safety. They've had people who have changed lanes and messed it up, and something happened, and there was a crash. And then, of course, when they get a crash, the whole thing is, you know, spilt bread dough on the kitchen floor and the cat walking in it because it just makes a mess. So they just stop letting people do it. And they put it in as the law that you can't change lanes in the tunnel. You can't change lanes on the bridge to try and facilitate traffic flow. This is the reason that certain things are prohibited. And one of the things that I learned this week, I knew that there was a fog line on the right side of the highway that's, you know, it's a solid white line. It's called the fog line. Now, there's a yellow line on the left side of an interstate or freeway. So the next time you're driving along a highway or a freeway or an interstate, look at the left side. There's a solid yellow line. So there, on the right side is the fog line, the solid white line. There's a solid yellow line on the left side. It's called the left edge line. And you are prohibited from driving on the left, beyond that, on that shoulder. You're not supposed to be over there. So don't drive there, okay? It's unpredictable and it's unsafe. And sitting duck crashes. Please don't park on the side of the interstate, side of the highway, unless it is an absolute emergency. Please don't do that. Wheels, I guess it might also be due to the fact that there is no shoulder. So if something goes wrong, people have no way of escaping and it will cause a crash, then a huge pileup. Wheels, exactly. There's no shoulder. There's no escape. 7X, remember that Vancouver is a crash zone, so can't escape that, especially rush hour. It's like the movie Final Destination, except there's no deaths. Yes. Elevator fan, is it illegal to change lanes on a railway crossing? Not that I'm aware, elevator fan, but generally, I'm trying to think of a railway crossing on a multi-lane road. I can't think of one, but maybe a smart driver here or smart driver on the replay can leave a comment about railway crossings on multi-lane roads. But I wouldn't do it, elevator fan, because a railway crossing is an intersection. It is an intersection. And 40% of crashes happen at intersections, and 500 crashes still happen at railway crossings in the United States of America, 50 in Canada a year. So don't do it. Okay, don't do it. Focus on getting across the railway crossings. I know that it is, you're not allowed to change gears in a manual transmission in a big truck when going across railway tracks, so don't do that. Marion, not that it stops some people. Of course, Marion. Traffic laws no more prevent crashes than criminal law prevents crime. They're not going to keep you safe. on the roadway. And we will leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your great questions and comments and discussion about traffic laws, keeping people safe, road signs, and passing a driver's test. And look at this card here for the next video. Have a look at that and be sure to pass your driver's test first time. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.